Hey guys, my name is Mike, also known as FlyFisher530. Today I'm going to show you my do-it-yourself power water system that you can make in one day.
갇혀있던 미로 속에서 마주했던 건 wall after wall.
Okay, so here's a general overview of what the water system consists of. We have two 5-gallon jerry cans. These are Scepter Jerry Cans. They have a quick connect fitting on this one that can also be placed on this one when the first one runs dry. So we have 10 gallons total. This hose runs down and goes under the rear passenger side seat, and then the drain that's on the floorboard at that point where the passenger side seat sits, that hose goes down through that drain and comes back around under the Jeep until it's about right here. That's where the RV pump sits underneath in the cargo space area. From the other side of that RV pump, it comes over, and the hose from that RV pump outlets at this point where it connects to the disconnect here. And from there we have a quick connect fitting for the spray nozzle. The electrical to turn the water pump on is here. I can get in here, get a shot. That switch right there in the back, the small one, is what turns on the pump. And it's really that simple. And that's just a general overview of what the system is. We'll talk more about this little feature on this left side jerry can later in the video. Okay guys, so for the Scepter Jerry Can, the easiest way I found to do this was to drill a hole on the flat spot here. This is where the female quick connect would go. This is a 30 millimeter diameter hole that I use standard step drill bit. I'm just going to take it, keep going down until you get to 30 millimeters. Be very careful as you get closer to that dimension, and I would err on the side of less than 30 millimeters than larger, even if you have to file it a little bit to get it to fit in there nice and snug. These step drill bits tend to have a angled section on them where when you're drilling through plastic, the top portion will be 30 millimeters, but the bottom portion might be 28 millimeters of the plastic. So that means if you drilled it to where the bottom portion is 30 millimeters, the top's going to be 32 millimeters, and it's not going to be a very tight fit. So err on the side of smaller millimeters than larger, but the actual hole diameter is about 30 millimeters. Anyway, so to get this on here, the tubing needs to go on. The tubing needs to be cut exactly to the bottom of the jerry can, but you want to leave at least about a ½ inch or so. And I don't think I installed, in fact I know I did not install a stainless steel hose connector around this part of the project, because getting that over the tube, getting this ring nut over that hose clamp probably would not have been possible. So you want to get your hand in there, you want to crank this down as tight as you can. You can also try to get a wrench in there or something also to help you get some leverage. It's not easy, but it also doesn't need to be overly tight. If you get a little bit of leakage out of here, as long as you're not storing it in a horizontal position. I've seen drops of water out here, but nothing major, and this was just hand tight. So I wouldn't be overly stressed about getting it so tight that you think nothing's going to leak out of it. Even if there's a few drops of water, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And if there are, you can always go in later and tighten it up some more. Anyway, that's basically the idea is get a tubing that goes down to about a 1/2 inch of the bottom. It does not need a hose clamp. With these barbs on there, it should stay on there. There's no reason why it should pull off at that point, especially with only a 1/2 inch. And if you want to make a 1/4 inch of play at the bottom, there's really no way it should be able to come off in the future. I've never had any problems in the year I've been using mine. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully that helps. Okay guys, so for the tubing that goes inside the Scepter Jerry Can, more than likely if you get some, it's going to look like this, and that's not going to be very helpful for getting to the bottom of the jerry can. So one of the easiest ways I found to straighten this out long term so it stays in a straight position and can get to the bottom of the jerry can is to take 2x4 like this and set in, I just put in some lines to keep hopefully a fairly straight tubing at the end result. Put in some screws about the width of the tubing and set that inside the set it inside those screws, and this is a little extra long, so if the ends kind of curl at the end here, it's not a big deal, but you do want to make sure it's longer than what you need. And this essentially from here to here is about 21 inches, so that's what worked for me. Once you got it inside these screws to hold it in place, or it could be nails, you want to take a heat gun, turn it on, and then just start heating it, but making sure you're not melting it either. Just go over it from side to side, and as it heats up, it'll start to relax. Just want to keep doing that. But also not too close and not so much in one spot that you start melting the tubing. So once you're done, let it cool down at least for an hour or two, and when you can touch it and it's back to room temperature, then you can take it out. And you should be left with a fairly straight piece of tubing that you can then use to put to the bottom of the Scepter Jerry Can. Hope that part was helpful for you guys. Okay guys, so it's been a while. These are cooled down to room temperature, and you just remove it, and you can see you have a much straighter piece of tubing now. It will not bend or anything. Mine stayed straight in the Scepter Jerry Can for over a year now. You're going to cut it to length, and like I say, you do not need a hose clamp on the end that attaches to the female coupling, and leave it about a 1/2 inch short on the end, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch short on the end. That would reach the bottom of the Scepter Jerry Can. So hopefully that's a little helpful on how to straighten out this tubing. Okay guys, so this is how the tubing gets to the RV pump. It's stored under here, under the seat, normally for my Jeep. And then it runs underneath the carpeting, underneath this mat. There's a drain hole about right here. And you're going to pull that rubber plug, push that tubing through that hole in this direction. And it's going to be going on top of the fuel tank for the Jeep. It's a pretty tight fit, but if you keep pushing it in this direction, it will come out on the other side of the fuel tank where you can grab it and keep pulling it through to the to where it's going to connect to the RV pump. Okay guys, so this is where the hose comes out from under the fuel tank, and it's going to transition now along this section of towards the back of the Jeep, running over these, keeping it as high as possible, and running next to these existing lines till it gets to the RV pump. So here's another look at it by the drive shaft. It's going to follow the back area here, follow along until it gets to the RV pump here. And you can see the connection there. There's a strainer, and I'll get a better shot of this in a second. Okay, so here's the RV pump. It's basically right underneath your rear cargo area. There's a very nice flat spot where you can attach the RV pump. You need to remove all the items on top of the cargo space to get to the bare metal, but that's not a big deal. You'll attach the RV pump with those 4 bolts. And then I have a strainer attached before it goes into the RV pump to catch any miscellaneous debris that might be in there. And you can see here's the inlet side of the tubing coming in to that RV pump. You'll have 2 wires coming off that pump, and those wires will follow along with the tubing. You'll see here. And this tubing is going to go to the outside of the bumper. Now you see that quick connect there also. That's so if I ever need to change out this pump, it won't be a big deal. I just disconnect right there and can swap out this pump if should it ever fail. I don't have to go through a big procedure on it. All right, we'll give you another shot of where this tubing's going here next. Okay, so here's the rear differential. And now we're looking up underneath. There's the RV pump with the tubing and the wiring. That is going to follow around. Let's see. You can see the wiring there up above that frame. Yeah, and the tubing's above that as well. And it's traveling over to the driver's side of the bumper. Okay, here's another view of that tubing coming around now to the exterior of the bumper and connecting up to the bumper there. With the plastic piece on this bumper, I have I think I had to break a tab, so I have a zip tie holding it back so it wouldn't fall out. But really with the connection of the hose there, it's not going to really go anywhere anyway. But that's where the exit point of the hose is to the exterior water hose. And it follows back around. Here again, we're on the outside of the bumper. And that's where it goes. Following all the way back to the RV pump, which is over there. So not too difficult to run this, really. This is actually easier than the other, the piece getting over the fuel tank. But that's where it exits, right there. Now the electrical line, you'll see that right there. That's going to go up to the rear tail light. So you'll see that in a minute. Okay, so to connect the other piece of the tubing to the jerry can, I'm going to pull back the seat, pull up the tubing, and this will connect to the quick connect fitting on that jerry can. So once the hose is free from behind the seat, I'm just going to pull it up to the jerry can, lock it in place, and there it is attached. Okay guys, so this is looking at the top of the jerry cans with the connection made. I have another quick connect for the other can, so when 5 gallons runs dry on this side, I can just quickly snap it into the 5 gallon quick connect on the other side. The thing you see on the right there is a heater element that I've also added to one of the cans to have warm showers. I'll go into more detail on that in another video, but for now I haven't really tested it enough to say whether or not I like it, and it works good. It does heat up the water to 100 degrees, I do know that much, but I definitely want to field test it some more before I can say it's something worth having on the Jerry Can. But that's just an overview of how the system looks when it's all hooked up. Okay guys, so the switch for the RV pump is behind this 12-volt outlet here. It's right here, that's a little tiny switch. That switch basically interrupts the 12-volt positive line. So when you flip that switch, it makes a connection between the positive line of the system. So one side of that switch would go to your battery and the other side would go to the positive of the RV switch. In my case, I already had a wire from the battery coming to this, so I connected it to the positive side of this outlet, and then the other positive side of that wire went to the RV pump wire. So hopefully that's clear enough. You do need to pull back this entire panel. There is a bolt behind here that you have to get to do that. There's bolts down on the bottom here underneath. It's not difficult to do it, but you will need to pull this panel back to get access back there to put in that switch, but it's not a difficult project. And there's a look at the switch with the light turned on. So you do have a light that comes on that will let you know that the system's on. You won't hear anything if you've got a completely sealed system with no air escaping. There should be no issue with hearing anything with the pump activating at all. It is turned on as it's ready to use, and I've left this on overnight with no problems, but I wouldn't recommend it. And here we are turning off the switch. Okay, so you're going to have one red wire that comes off of that switch that's going to drop down through that grommet. Now, the negative lead of that wire coming up from your pump, and these are the two wires here where this connection point is, the negative wire could just go to ground. In my case, I connected it up to my 12-volt outlet. The positive wire is going to connect to the positive from the switch. The positive wire is going to connect to the positive wire of the RV pump, and this just drops down. There's a hole in the bottom of this taillight that you can drop down to run the wires over the frame and over to the RV pump. It's not very difficult at all. So that's just how you do the wiring. And here's a quick look at the water hose kit. So in the water hose kit, we have the following things. We have the water hose, the quick connect fitting on the end. We have another sort of flexible water hose connection. This I thought would be helpful if you're filling up buckets and want sort of a hands-free situation without having to press on a or hold a spray nozzle like that. And then also the wrench, which is helpful for tightening the large diameter lid on the Scepter Jerry Can. And that's pretty much it, but it holds everything nice and tidy in its own little kit. And here you can see the quick connect fitting. Okay guys, so for where I connected the exterior connection point for the water hose was at this location. This is a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon Unlimited with a steel bumper, but this is a plastic insert all the way around here. So it made it quite easy to drill through this and mount this female quick connect fitting here. This is stainless steel, and then this is a male quick connect fitting on the end of the water hose here. So it's been working great, and it made it easy for install. But if you had a steel bumper, you might have to drill through it. You got to make sure you got access behind it. I've also seen people mount it on the sides of the Jeep, right behind the taillight, on the side panel of the Jeep. There may be an option even to put a bracket underneath your bumper and put it down there, but of course then it might get stuck up on a rock or something. So, but it's been working great. And then to finish it off, there's a rubber cap to seal it up when it's not in use. So there you go. Okay, so now that it's hooked up on the exterior here, the hose and the nozzle, just gonna take that. You can see there's quite a bit of distance on this thing. Very powerful. Does a great job of cleaning your Jeep if it's dirty, if your front windshield needed to get clean. You have enough to do that as well. So it does a great job, really. Very powerful, and I think well worth the effort to install. So on the jet mode for the nozzle, you get pretty good distance. Pretty powerful. So what are the advantages to having these jerry cans set up like this? For me, one of the main reasons is there's no water valve at the bottom of the jerry can or connection point at the bottom of the water tank. For me, that's a big deal, because if that ever leaked or broke, you'd have water all over your Jeep. So setting them up this way, for me, is a good safety factor against flooding your Jeep with water. The other issue is portability. And there's been many times when I've been in Death Valley needing to fill up these things with water, and the closest water spigot is maybe 50 yards away from where you can park. And so these you can just lift out of the Jeep, or at a rest stop too. Just lift them out and carry them over to a water spigot and fill them up. Versus if it's mounted in your Jeep in a more permanent fashion, you're not going to be able to do that. Or you're going to be forced to carry a very long water hose to fill up your water tanks. So for me, they're just portable. I can even add more in here if I wanted to. And so that's one advantage for me that I see. So I also have this base I made for the Scepter Jerry cans, and it works good. It's held in with the strap. The jury's still out if I'm going to continue to use it. My Jeep's so packed with supplies and other things when I go on a long trip that I really don't think I even need this. These jerry cans are packed in so tight that I don't think it'd ever be an issue, but it's working for now. It's a lot of extra weight I don't think I really need. So I'm not sure if I'll continue to use those long term or not, but they're working fine. So I hope you guys found this video helpful for installing a do-it-yourself power water system for an off-road vehicle. It was a fun project for me to do, and I've used it many times since I've installed it almost a year ago now. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It'll help the channel grow. I am new to the YouTube world and still learning a lot, and would appreciate you guys following along. And again, hope to see you guys on the trail someday.